Hello everybody, and welcome to what was not the actual victorious poll choice here. Allow me to make a little bit of an explanation here. Let me swap over to display capture to show the actual poll. So, Kerbal Space Program only got 23% of the poll, right? And EU4's France update got 29%. However, the joke option of more CK3 that was explicitly labeled as a joke got 31%. So, I'm not trusting you guys' opinion very much here. More specifically, the reason that I'm overriding this isn't because of this. Like, the reason that I'm overriding the EU4 France update choice here in favor of Kerbal Space Program is, in fact, because I feel like we have 3 grand strategy game campaigns going on right now, and it's kind of the 3 main ways of playing. And I don't know that adding in an EU4 campaign at this exact moment would really add much to that. I do definitely want to get an EU4 campaign going, but I think that now is not the exact time for that. Maybe once the Stellaris game ends, which should be fairly soon. So we'll think about it at that point. But for now, we're going to run Kerbal Space Program. And the question becomes, if I switch off of display capture, there we go. The question becomes, what is our goal in Kerbal Space Program? It's a very sandboxy game, and I always like to have a goal for each series going into it. And in this case, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about maybe some colonization or something like that, but a lot of that's heavily overdone. I think that one thing that might be a little bit interesting is to play Kerbal Space Program in a slightly more capitalistic way than is usually done. Now, KSP is not particularly great at capitalism as a game, right? That's not really the focus. It's more about playing a NASA-style entity rather than like a commercial entity. But what I'm actually thinking about doing is setting up deep space mining, specifically asteroid mining infrastructure, and then transporting the ore somewhere for refinement. Now, in KSP, that pretty much means refining it into fuel. Like, you can't really make it into products so much, but we'll just pretend that that's something that we can do. So we can start a new game, and we're going to go ahead and do that. This is not going to be a default save name. What is this going to be? Well, we could just call the save naming Atraitus. That's not how I wanted to spell that. Asteroid mining Wow, I cannot type. Initiative. That's a little too long. I was hoping to get 3 more letters in there. Okay, so we'll need to figure out a way to shorten this by 3 letters, huh? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That wouldn't work. I was thinking about making this be like the deep space mining. We could just call it like the Atraitus Deep Space Mining Company, like that, and we'd have 2 characters left. You know what? Let's go with it. So, flags. Now, I've not added in... There's our Ethiopia flag still there. I've not added in any custom flags other than the Ethiopia one, so we would just have the default flags here. And what would we want to go for this? I mean, we would probably want to do something along the lines... We want it to be a little more generic. It could be like blorbs. That one's not awful. Sure, we'll go with that. Blorbs. Sounds good. So we're going to be running this on pretty much exactly the default difficulty options. Like, honestly, these difficulties I'm not too concerned about. Wait, it defaults with missing crews respawn? Interesting. Well, okay, we'll go ahead and accept that. We're going to run it completely default, and we're going to start. Like, the difficulty of KSP is more about what missions you take, rather than cranking up those numbers, right? At least as far as I'm concerned. Yes, this is understood, but we want this to be, let's see here. Focus follows mouse, focus follows click. We can definitely change that later, but we're just going to go for focus follows mouse, and we will save as global default, I guess. Sure. Okay, so I should probably talk a little bit about what mods we've got here. This is pretty much the same mod set, actually, as the previous campaign. So we're running X Science, click-through blocker, which I think is a dependency of X Science. We're running environmental visual enhancements, Kerbal Engineer Redux for stock, or rather KER for data. Module Manager, we're running Restock and Restock Plus. This is to refresh the stock parts a bit, and Restock Plus adds a few new parts in, but it's all very stock-esque. And then we're also running a couple of various libraries that are not particularly relevant, but they're dependencies. And we're also running 4KSP expanded so that we can control to some degree what we've got going on here. So let's go ahead and hop back to game capture there. And that is a bit of a rundown of the mods. If any get added or removed over the course of this playthrough, I will definitely make note of that. However, here we are at the very beginning. So let's hop into mission control. We definitely want to grab the contract to launch our first vessel and gather scientific data from Kerbal. So that'll be great. We'll go ahead and leave that facility and we'll hop into the VAB, and we're going to create ourselves our first contract completion vehicle here. Yes, Werner von Kerman, I know how this works. This will be fine. We're going to use a Mark 1 command pod for the time being. Although, is there really a reason to use that over the Onion reentry module? Honestly, there kind of isn't. Let's go ahead and use the Onion here. That'll be fine. All we're going to do is launch the Onion. It'll be great. Trust me. It'll be great. So it's not even going to fly at all. All we're going to do is go out to the pad. And we're going to utilize X Science because that is a very, very convenient mod here. We're going to need to turn on the Here and Now window, which, how do I do that again? Oh, that's right. So we need to go into the settings window and change this to Opens Here and Now window. There we go. And then we get rid of that. That's all very small, but that's to be expected. Not everything scales perfectly. But we'll go ahead and open up... Nope, that was the wrong button. We're going to go ahead and open up X Science Here and Now window. That is definitely very small. Is there an option in the mod to scale it? Yes, there is. Okay, perfect. So we're going to run that at around 1.7, which is where we are running the rest of the UI scaling for 4K. Okay, perfect. So that allows us to get our crew report. And we'll keep that, and then we'll EVA old Jeb here, and we'll grab an EVA report. We'll keep that as well, and then we will have him... Interesting that we can't immediately get back in. I guess we have to climb up slightly and then board. Okay, cool. And we're just going to recover that vessel. That will, of course, get us our first little bit of science, and that will also complete our very first contract of gathering science from Kerbal. Okay, so there is 3.9 science earned from that, and we've completed a contract as well. So if we go down here, we can see we performed an EVA test at home, we performed the first of our experiments at home, we have gathered scientific data from Kerbal and gathered scientific data from Kerbal. So now that allows us to escape the atmosphere. We'll go ahead and grab that, but we're probably not going to do that just yet. Let's hop into the admin building here, and there's a research rights sellout here. I don't think that that's useful. And the bailout grant, I don't think that's useful either. I just wanted to check what was available on the first level there. That's absolutely fine. We're going to hop into the VAB here then. Actually, no, we're not. We need to hop into the R&D facility. So we'll go ahead and do that quick. Into R&D. That will allow us to grab either basic rocketry or engineering 101, which would allow us to grab the thermometer and the decoupler, or basic rocketry, which would allow us to take the Pug, Valiant, Swivel, Hammer, and the T-100 fuel tank. All of those are very good. We're going to grab engineering 101, though, because we want that thermometer as soon as possible. So we're going to hop into the VAB yet again. And we're just doing some initial science here. So we're going to roll out the thermometer. We're going to position that here, I guess. There's a Mystery Goo inline unit, but we're just going to attach a Mystery Goo containment unit here for the moment. We don't need a computer flight unit or a KER on here at this moment. But we'll go ahead and launch this, and we're going to grab ourselves a little bit more data. Hopefully this will be enough science to grab basic rocketry. That's the overall goal here. Yes, it will be. Excellent. So we're going to grab this experiment and the mystery goo observation. Excellent. And now we'll recover the vessel. And that'll give us a little bit more science. And then we're going to do this one more time to try to get the science from the mystery goo a little further along. Okay, so that got us 5.4 science. We'll hop into here, and we're going to grab a basic rocketry. That gets us all of this over here. Now, general rocketry, and also these buttons are not particularly scaled up, but the KSP UI scaling is a little bit dodgy at times, but it should be overall okay. So, I mean, heat shields, let's see, general rocketry, where do we get the actual parachutes from? Survivability? I think it used to be radial mount parachutes only. Did they move where the nose mounted parachutes are, or do you start with those? You might start with those these days. You didn't used to. I'm pretty sure anyway. But let's hop into the VAB and let's check that. Oh yeah, Mark 16 parachute. Very nice. Okay, so that's cool. As far as other science goes, we don't really need any other science. I'm actually going to move the mystery goo containment unit over here to balance out our weight a little bit. And we could think about flight here. So we could put like a bunch of T100s here. And of course, I'm using Alt to duplicate this. That's a lot of T100s. Out of curiosity, what would the thrust to weight be if we just slapped a swivel on here? Well, obviously, we would need to have these be separated. But our thrust to weight here in Kerbal atmospheric at sea level would be fine. We would actually lift off here. And how much DV would we have? In theory, enough to get into orbit. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and launch here. But before we do that, I want to make a slight adjustment to this. I'm just looking at what our options are right now. They are minimal. There's no doubt about that. But I think we're going to grab these modular girder segments. And there's no way that we're going to properly launch with modular girder segments like this, but we're going to do this, and then we're going to do something along the lines of, actually, we need to turn off this snap, and I need to move this KER over here. Can we move that? I'm pretty sure you can somehow. Because this is overlapping a little bit, but we can handle that later on. So we want that snapping to be like that, and then put it in right about there will do. And then we'll just snap that on like that. Now, what's the point of this? Well, it's not exactly straight, but it doesn't need to be. The point of this is simply, oh, we have over 30 parts. How many parts do we have here? 33. Fair enough. We're going to drop 3 fuel tanks to get rid of that problem. This is completely okay. So we're going to save this. Actually, we're not going to save. There's no point in saving this thing. This thing is a monstrosity that needs to die in a fire. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a very cautious liftoff, quasi-hover, and land. That's the point behind these, is to give us the ability to do some landing. So we're going to do a mystery goo observation here. We'll go ahead and keep that. And then we're going to recover it again. We need to keep doing that until our mystery goo is sufficiently dealt with. Sufficiently studied at this altitude, shall we say. So that gives us another 0.7 science. It's not a lot, to be sure. We'll launch it again. And what do we got here? I'm using the term launch very loosely right now. But we need to get this initial science going. Okay, we can get 0.2, but I'm actually going to lift off ever so gently here. So we are going to go ahead and fire up our engine. And crew report. Temperature scan. And the mystery goo observation. Perfect. Our SAS is kind of struggling a little bit, but that wasn't too bad. I'm going to try lifting off one more time here. Very gently, and I'm going to not cut the engine quite as much. Okay, EVA report. That's fine. We'll just go ahead and land again. That's all we wanted, was just that tiny little hop. So now we'll recover the vessel. Excellent. And that'll give us some solid science there. How much science? That will be 21.1. I like it. So that's great. We'll go ahead and recover all of that. And we have enough to grab survivability or general rocketry. And general rocketry would give us access to the T-200, which we will absolutely do. Okay, so now if we go into mission control, we can see that our goals are currently... Okay, these are what's available. Our goals are to escape the atmosphere and then probably orbit Kerbal. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'd like our first real actual launch to be orbital. Let's see if we can pull that off. I believe last time I did this, I might have accidentally murdered Jeb slightly, but I'm sure it'll be fine. So we're going to ditch this modular girder segment nonsense. Do we have access to decouplers? Yes, we do. Okay, so we're going to put in a decoupler right up over here. And we're going to drop all of these T100 fuel tanks. We're going to put in T200 fuel tanks now. It's exactly the same amount of fuel, but it is, shall we say, much more cost effective. Okay, so we definitely need this to be like so. I kind of don't like using the Onion's built-in, it's not really a decoupler. It like detaches and... Doesn't it roll around? Hang on. I feel like we need to test it. We'll go ahead and launch it and double check what it does. Is it am I thinking of a different lander? I might be. If it's got that built-in decoupler, we'll use that for sure. But let's double check it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and boom and boom. Okay. And obviously we're going to revert that. That was just a test to see what exactly that did. So we're going to revert that back to the vehicle assembly. And now we know. We do not need this decoupler. So that's good to know. I just wanted to see what exactly that did. And in reality, I would have asked an engineer, but it's KSP, so you kind of can't do that. So we're just going to check what our thrust to weight here would be. This would be a little ridiculous. 1.07, so it's very low. What's our part count looking like? It's looking okay. This basic fin is not a control surface. I think we should drop, at least 2 fuel tanks here. This is much more like it. 1.25 thrust to weight is not ideal, but it'll do. So we'll just call this, the Hopper 1. Like so. And we'll go ahead and save that. And now let's do our first real launch of this thing. Now, our ability to handle things like tumbles are very minimal at this point. And actually getting into orbit could be complicated. We'll see how exactly this ends up working. But SAS on. I just want to check. I'm glad I checked. Okay, we're going to revert that back to vehicle assembly because we don't really have much for command and control. We have nothing available for that. Okay, so that's, I think, a good reason for using the Mark 1 command pod here at this point because it has a built-in reaction wheel, whereas the Onion does not. So we're going to drop off the Onion and we're going to put in a Mark 1 command pod. Where did that go? Oh, it's inside of this. Okay, got it. So we are going to need a decoupler then. There we go. And we could make this match it by being white. That could work. We'll definitely need a parachute, no doubt about that. And we will put our science instruments on here as well. So let's see here, science. Okay, we'll put a thermometer on. I don't really like the snapping that it was doing there. There, that's better. And then we'll put a mystery goo containment unit on. There we go. We could make it be inline, but I think this is fine. Now, the mystery goo is going to be a little complicated to get all of the science from as we're doing this process here. But that's okay. The real question that I have at this point is, how does our electric charge hold? We have no way to get additional electric charge other than running the alternator on our engine. So this is going to be real interesting. We'll see if Jeb survives. We don't have a heat shield on here either, do we? That's something that we need. It's been a while since I played KSP. Yeah, we should definitely get that on there. I guess we're going to grab this last 0.2 mystery goo here as long as we're on the pad, and then we'll just recover the vessel and grab that. We should definitely 100%. Actually, 1000% try to put on a heat shield if we can. I'm pretty sure we do have heat shields available. Let's see here. Thermal. Nope, we don't. Okay. No heat shields available. How much science do we have? It's not a lot. I can tell you that right now. We have 5.3. So the first heat shields come in survivability. We need 15 total for that. Okay. We're going to have to use our engines and fuel tanks as an ablative heat shield. Okay, so we'll go ahead and launch it. Excellent. We'll load this on up, and as soon as we load in here, we'll throttle up, turn our SAS on, and up we go the old-fashioned way. Of course, we don't have any readouts up here. We don't have a KER on here. That's fine. We can't TVA report. We're going to not mystery goo here. Okay. So up we go here, and we're going to keep doing this. This is not going to be the most efficient descent profile. I can tell you that right now. But once we reach about 100 meters per second, we'll start tipping over towards the east. There we go, 100 meters per second. And we're going to need to keep this very cautious over here. There we go. We're beginning to pitch downrange. We're still in flying low here. And that's fine. We're sticking right on this heading, and I'm very glad to see that. No wiggle popping in just yet. Okay. I want to continue to head on over here. Still on that 90-degree heading. That's really nice. Okay. Altitude is increasing quite a lot. And that's great. We're now flying high. We're going to grab ourselves a crew report, a temperature scan, and a mystery goo observation. Cool. And we're going to start heading a lot more over. What's our apoapsis right now? We don't actually know. That's exciting stuff. Well, we're going to head on over to around here or so. We're in orbital mode, so that is a good sign. Okay. We're just heading over to the horizon at this point. Cool. So we're going to keep some fuel in reserve, that is for sure. We don't even know our apoapsis. That's insane to me. This has got to be high enough, right? 422 meters per second. So we need to wait until we're like out here. This is suborbital still. We've not really made a great attempt here, I don't think. And the reason I don't think that, I mean, we made it to space, but the reason I don't think that this is a great attempt is, in fact, because we don't have access to the apoapsis markers, which I was expecting. But we'll go ahead and warp forward here a little bit until the prograde marker comes on over to the horizon. So we're on 10x here. We don't have a lot of fuel. Okay, where are we at in our orbit? Okay, yeah. Definitely wait a bit here. Oh, we need to not stop time warp at the moment. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to hop on over to the prograde marker. We're not quite at the correct burn time yet. That will be when the marker is at the horizon here. So we'll just go ahead and continue to warp a little bit here. Okay. We may end up abandoning Jeb in space. I'm not sure. Actually, I think we're going to be suborbital the whole way. And the reason for that is just because I didn't have an apoapsis marker. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, we way overshot. That'll do it. But that's actually absolutely fine. So we're just going to go ahead and smooth out our orbit a bit, our re-entry. I'm going to maintain about... Actually, I have no idea what our periapsis is here. Are we in orbit? Let's launch our first vessel. We reached space. We escaped the atmosphere. I think we're not quite in orbit. Just burning a little bit here. Okay, look at that. Achieve goal, orbit Kerbal. Okay, we didn't have much info here. This was definitely not a great ascent, but we're going to burn the rest of our fuel, or maybe not even the rest of it, but we're going to burn a bunch of the fuel here. Like half of it. Retrograde. Okay, we need to turn. Let's get back there. We're trying to come back right now, and I think we're already in the back category, but I don't know that for sure because we don't know our prograde and our retrograde. So we're going to burn about 40 meters per second here. We're going to keep 40, and then we're just going to point retrograde here. We're going to be coming back, and of course we don't have a storage container, so we're not going to be able to grab a lot of this science. We're going to have to do multiple orbital flights, but that's okay. We will be able to do that much more effectively after this flight. So we're going to warp forward a little bit here. And once we reach around 100,000 meters, we're going to redirect back over to the prograde marker. You can stop playing that audio alert, thanks. And we're going to hop back to the prograde marker now. Excellent. We've kept 40 meters per second in the tank here, and of course we're going to need to have these be a little bit separate. There we go. We'll separate those on out. Okay, back to the prograde marker. Are we going to have to take multiple passes here is the question. So we're going to continue to warp until we hit Atmo here. Now we're drifting off the prograde marker, but that's fine. We should be able to get back there. How are we doing on electric charge? Oh, we're fine. Okay, that's good. The question is, are we going to go deep enough into the atmosphere to return on a single pass here? That's a good question. I think the answer is yes, but without having the actual number, it is hard to say. We have very minimal amounts of information here. But for now, this is looking okay. Of course, we also need to manually hold retrograde here, which you'll notice that I am doing with the yaw here. So there we go. We're on our way down, and we're going to start hitting some fairly thick parts of the atmosphere here. Of course, we only have 40 meters per second to brake with. We're going to use our engine as an ablative heat shield. As in, the engine is going to burn off. Because we don't have access to an ablative heat shield. You can see right now we're starting to see heating effects. And that's fine. We really don't have the tech to do what we're doing right now, for the record. This is kind of dumb to do this at this point, but let's see how it goes. We're holding retrograde. We're still speeding up. The moment we start to see the heat gauge appear here, that is when we need to burn off the rest of this fuel. Okay. So I'm continuing to make minor adjustments to our heading here. This is starting to get spooky. We're now down to 40 kilometers. Okay. We're holding here pretty well. Heat gauge. So we burn off what little fuel we had to drop our speed just that little amount. We only had 40 meters per second. So it burned off really fast. We're going to start to see parts explode here. most likely. We're still accelerating. Remember, we are using the engine as a heat shield. Okay, just trying to hold directly retrograde here. It's definitely getting spooky. We're down to 30 kilometers here. Okay. We are decelerating. There's a lot of air still between us and the ground. That engine is very likely to overheat, but we are slowing down, not as quickly as I'd like. Something just burned off there. I believe it was the mystery goo unit. Yeah, that was the mystery goo unit. Okay. If we had a heat shield, this would be a lot easier, but we don't. Losing the mystery goo unit is not the end of the world. What we need to do is bring Jeb back. Like I said, we really don't have the tech for this. And once we're done with this flight, we're going to get a lot of science. So that's going to get us a very nice leg up. We're going to lose our engine very shortly, but we are starting to decelerate pretty dramatically. And that's good. I wish we had a little fuel left. It would have been a lot better if I had known what our apoapsis was and could have stopped the burn a lot earlier and circularized our orbit, but we don't have that technology. That's fine. We're going to lose our engine shortly. The fuel tanks are all dry. We're also going to use them as ablative shielding for right now. There goes... Oh, we're tumbling. Okay. That said, we're losing a lot of speed right now. We're going to go ahead and do that. Although, let's see. Grab this. Disarm. Okay. I thought that this decoupler decoupled, but there we go. Okay, so we're prograde right now. We're going to head over to retrograde. There we go. We're decelerating, and all is good, actually. Now, we did end up losing the thermometer and the goo containment unit. That's okay. That's not the biggest of deals. The big thing here is we survived. Through some miracle. We can't grab a crew report or EVA report. These flights are going to get a lot more efficient later on. Overall, though, I'm fairly pleased with how this flight has gone, considering that we have, like, no technology for doing this. I always like getting that very, very first orbital flight. Like, the first real flight is orbital. I always like doing that. So at this point, we can go ahead and deploy our chute. Although, we'll have to do it manually because I messed up the staging. But that's okay. And now we'll just physics warp our way down to the ground. This is all completely fine. Wonderful. So down to the ground we go. There's our deploy. And we'll just continue to physics warp down the last little way here. We should be able to EVA report from the water. We can't get out right now because we have to upgrade our astronaut complex, but that's okay. All things considered, I'm going to call that a super successful first flight. Yeah, we lost a few parts that we weren't intending, or rather weren't hoping to lose, but with tech, we'll be able to definitely solve that problem. So here comes our splashdown. Beautiful. We'll EVA Jeb and grab that EVA report, and we'll hop back in, and we will recover that vessel. And the question is, just how much are we going to get out of it? And the answer is a lot. A whole lot. So that's great. We'll load on in, and let's see what we've got. Look at that. 62 science. It may not sound like a huge amount, but at this point, that gets us so much. That gets us heat shields. That gets us service bays. That gets us barometers. Drogue chutes, if we want them. We probably want them. That would also potentially even get us Terriers and T-400s. I think we go for it. Done. And with that, it is time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we are going to create a quote-unquote real orbital ship rather than a janky one. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings. And I will see you all next time.